That video was so violent, so graphic.
No more could we live in a society where it's acceptable for a person to be murdered in cold blood. Enough had just been enough.
After I saw the video, I shared it on social media, and I said we need to put an event together to demand justice.
Within a few days, thousands of protesters had descended on Minneapolis. Most were peaceful, but there was violence.
If we don't get no justice, there ain't gonna be no damn peace.
We saw the police show up in riot gear.
And they were shooting tear gas and firing rubber bullets, trying to control the crowd. They had inflicted such trauma on the community that to take a position of law and order was actually insane.
Soon, the protests were spontaneously spreading across the nation. By June 1st, the protesters had reached the nation's capital.
Don't shoot! Don't shoot!
That night, a clash of protesters and police on this quiet, narrow street.
There was troops, paramilitaries, authority figures in riot gear with guns on this corner.
A block away, Rahul Dubey could not believe what he was seeing.
All hell breaks loose.
People are screaming and panicking, and it is literally a human tsunami coming down this street that is being chopped down by these authority figures.
Jenny, who has been protesting since she was 15 years old, says the memories of that night still haunt her.
This was honestly the first time that I was met with such violence and aggression from the police. I was trying to figure a way out, and there was no way out.
In the midst of the chaos, Rahul made a split-second decision.
What are you so afraid of? Just people!
Rahul flung the door open and let people in.
He's like, come on. I'm like, all right, we got to take this opportunity. I'm not trying to get arrested tonight.
He opened his home to 72 protesters, strangers, many of them suffering from the sting of tear gas.
We're okay here?
Yeah, you are.
Is everybody in this house okay here?
We appreciate you, bro.
Thank you.
So at that point, you say, I'm going to open the door, and you let them in.
I saw humans intentionally hurting my sisters and brothers feet away from me.
Sound down, Babylon, black people are the problem here.
Around the same time, actor Kendrick Sampson was protesting the murder of George Floyd in Los Angeles.
It was one of the most beautiful demonstrations I've ever been a part of.
While he was protesting, Kendrick says the police became violent.
Hey, hands up! Hey, bro, watch it! Oh! Police showed up right at the end, and the aggression just grew and grew until they were beating people with batons. Stop shooting American citizens! Moments after the attack, Sampson turned to social media to show the world his injuries.
You see this? Baton, rubber bullets. Dude looked at me in my eye and aimed straight at me.
He says the abuse left him traumatized.
I would wake up with adrenaline, just my heart racing. I have a lot of trauma that I still have to work through.
A year later, the LAPD now undergoing reforms and training to address more appropriate protest response. Lifelong civil rights leader Reverend Al Sharpton delivered George Floyd's eulogy with words that became a rallying cry.
It's time for us to stand up in George's name and say, get your knee off our necks.
I'm watching you deliver the sermon. Get your knee off our necks. You said it and you preached it.
I looked down at that casket of George Floyd, and it hit me that all of us have fought this knee on our necks all our lives, whether we were billionaire black businessmen, whether we were women getting overlooked for a job, and it just bubbled up in me that all we want you to do is get your knee off our neck.
August 28th, Reverend Sharpton leads the commitment march on Washington.
Black Lives Matter!
And as he looked out at the thousands in attendance, Reverend Sharpton remembers a conversation between President Biden and George Floyd's daughter, Gianna.
She said, my daddy's gonna change the world. When I stood there on those steps where Dr. King had stood 57 years before and looked at that mass crowd, I thought about that little girl.
That changed the world.
I said, she's right. I don't know how, but I know her daddy's changed the world.
1 year later, the lessons of a movement.
What was the epiphany from that moment?
Here's a beautiful black human being getting murdered for no reason, and why is that not bothering me enough to do anything? The recognition that I have racial tendencies, I have cognitive bias, and I have to look at myself as if I am the racist number one and address that in me first. To have that introspection with the help of my new family members and people of color and black Americans that were in this house with me.
All different people, different ages, different races coming together, and yet it all centralized in this house. This house becomes a microcosm of the whole movement.
The connection that was made here was so natural. Leading with love, it doesn't matter where you come from, what walk of life.
That's a new phrase, leading with love.
Just lead with love. It's not hard. It takes a lot of effort to hate, to appreciate. That's it.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.